Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we go over the happenings of the week. Feel free to check out last week's episode and make sure you have subscription notifications turned on to be alerted of new episodes. We don't have a ton of Diablo or Overwatch news this week, so we're going to start with some rapid-fire general gaming news. If you'd like to skip ahead to Diablo or Overwatch, check out the timestamps above. Diving into the week's news, the Game Awards 2017 took place on December 7th, honoring the best video games of 2017. The big winner receiving the Game of the Year award was The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. But Cuphead and Hellblade were also big winners, taking home 3 awards each. Do you feel a different game deserved Game of the Year for 2017? Sound off in the comments with your Game of the Year. Now, the Game Awards is also a place where new trailers are launched, and one such trailer was for Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding. And this is just an absolute mind freak. Death Stranding is an upcoming action game, clearly with huge horror elements to it. And Hideo Kojima is best known for his Metal Gear series, but he clearly has a very, very twisted mind in a beautiful way. The trailer is super creepy, super confusing, and leaves fans with tons to speculate on. We had a new Portal game announced at the Game Awards. Not Portal 3, but Portal Bridge Constructor. And the reaction to this seems to be pretty negative. I'm personally just happy to have something new Portal. I love Portal 1, I love Portal 2. Obviously, fans have been dying for a Portal 3 for a long time, but Valve can't count to 3. Now, Bridge Constructor Portal is actually being developed by Head Up Games, not by Valve, and it seems like a fun little game, but the big outrage from fans seems to be that Valve, you know that we want Portal 3. This kind of feels like a slap in the face. But where do you fall on that? Are you upset about this bridge building game? Are you happy to get anything Portal? Sound off in the comments. Now, while the Game Awards celebrate the best games of the year, there was also a bit of ribbing towards the worst games of 2017. An indirect jab at EA happened right here.
And the Game Award goes to, oh man, I have to pay a microtransaction to unlock. That's so stupid that this has to, hold on, I got this, guys, here we go.
Now, of course, this was likely in reference to the whole Star Wars BattleFront 2 debacle, and EA scrambling to bring in that Christmas revenue, but their whole damage control just backfiring on them. We all know that Christmas is a big season for making lots of money, buying lots of games. Lots of parents are going to be buying games for their kids, and we've covered quite extensively this story in a number of previous videos. Do check that out if you're not up to date. But just as our sort of weekly reminder of how wonderful EA is, we've got Reddit user CM9AT that posted this image from Madden Mobile. Just a helpful hint from EA that very much shows their mindset. On to news from another big developer, Ubisoft. GameSpot.com reports that Ubisoft is delaying the release of Far Cry 5, The Crew 2, and another undisclosed game. Now, while this at first seems like bad news, it turns out that it's in order to make a better game. They don't want to rush them out, they're delaying the games to make them better. Ubisoft's Worldwide Studios Executive Director, Christine Burgess-Quemar, said, "Taking more time with Assassin's Creed Origins enabled our talented development team to fully express their creative vision. As expected, this had a very positive impact on the game's quality and largely participated to its commercial success. Taking a similar approach, we have decided to invest additional development time in 3 upcoming games." Now, it's always a shame when a game is rushed out the gates to meet investment deadlines, to meet certain release windows, and you can generally feel when a game is rushed. It's something that I feel that Diablo 3 at the end, the last few months, it wasn't quite ready, it needed a bit more time and was rushed to get it out to reach some kind of deadline. Now, while it is ultimately self-serving for Ubisoft, since making better games will net them more revenue in the long run, this is also a positive thing for gamers. So well played, Ubisoft. On to other big publisher news, and this one not so good. Destiny 2's latest expansion, or first expansion, just released, The Curse of Osiris. And there's some big controversy surrounding this, because if you don't buy it, you're effectively getting locked out of a significant portion of endgame activities. So there's certain endgame content in the game that requires you to be max level to participate in, and the expansion raises the max level of the game. But there's no exception made for you if you don't have the expansion. So content that you were previously able to partake in, you can no longer play unless you buy the expansion. That's outrageous. Destiny 2 was a full price game at launch. The expansion costs $20 or $25 here in Canada, and the PC version of this game released less than 2 months ago. So about 40 to 50 days ago, we paid full price for the game, and now we gotta fork over another $20 to keep playing. I'm really disappointed in this, because I wanted to get into Destiny 2. I've been playing it a little bit. I haven't had a ton of time to play. I just finally got to level 20, the max level. I was looking forward to finally doing some of the endgame content, and now I find out that I don't even get to try it. And there are other criticisms as well for the expansion. Destructoid gave it a 5 out of 10, but I turn the question to you folks. I'm sure some of you have it. Some of you play Destiny or have played Destiny 2. What are your thoughts on all this? On to some other big news. It seems that there is a new Tomb Raider game coming out in the future, because the official Tomb Raider Twitter account tweeted this message that contains a hidden message. The message reads, "Square Enix is excited to share some big news with you next year. Honestly, we wish we could share it with you right now, but we're taking a new approach this time. A new Tomb Raider game is coming. Driven by our goal of putting our fans first, we want you to know that it won't be very long between the official reveal and when you can play. Our journey together will begin with a major event in 2018. We simply can't wait to take you on Lara Croft's defining adventure." So basically, Square Enix here is announcing an announcement. And this does seem a little peculiar, and the way they deliver this message a little underwhelming. But again, there's a hidden message here. If you read the first letter of every sentence, it spells shadow. Now, what could that mean? We have to remember that in summer of 2017, there was an alleged leak outing a new Tomb Raider game titled Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Basically, someone was riding public transportation, they saw someone with their laptop open on some kind of PowerPoint presentation or something that said Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And so this tweet seems to be corroborating, seems to basically be telling us, yes, that was a legit leak. Now, that leak picture was taken on Montreal's subway system. Montreal is the city in which Eidos Montreal is located, and Eidos Montreal is the company that produced 2013's Tomb Raider and 2015's Rise of the Tomb Raider. Eidos is located in downtown Montreal. The office is basically right by the entrance to a metro station. It would be very common for an employee to be riding the metro home, so it seems this little oopsie has been proven true. Now, lastly, in general gaming news, Steam is no longer accepting Bitcoin as a form of currency. Now, this might at first seem shocking given Bitcoin has been exploding recently. In mid-November, one Bitcoin was worth just under 6,000 US dollars. 1 week ago, it sat at just under 11,000 US dollars. And this week it reached 17,000 US dollars, and as of the time of this recording, is sitting at just under $16,000. But Steam is no longer supporting Bitcoin due to, quote, high fees and volatility in the value of Bitcoin. The official message goes on to read that transaction fees that are charged to the customer by the Bitcoin network have skyrocketed this year, topping out at close to $20 a transaction last week, compared to roughly 20 cents when we initially enabled Bitcoin. There are other explanations about how when the price of Bitcoin varies from day to day so wildly that causes issues in their payment system, because if a transaction doesn't go through immediately, then if the price of Bitcoin has changed by the time it does go through, it just creates a big headache. And so they finalize by saying at this point, it has become untenable to support Bitcoin as a payment option. We may reevaluate whether Bitcoin makes sense for us and for the Steam community at a later date. Now, I don't personally own any Bitcoin. I've got a friend who's been pushing and pushing and pushing for me to invest in Bitcoin for over a year, probably years now, actually. What do you folks think? Do you own Bitcoin? Do you think Bitcoin is a wise investment? Personally, the volatility scares the hell out of me. All right, on to Diablo news. Now, I just want to start with a PSA for newish players to Diablo. And this is because I've seen these comments on my videos, I've seen it in my streams, and I see it in other places in the community, on Reddit, on the forums. The Ring of Royal Grandeur is one of the few items in the game that you only can get from bounty bags. It is specifically an Act 1 bounty bag item, but you can also get it from Act 4 bounty bags, but Act 4 bounty bags can produce it only because they can contain items from any of the Act's bounty bags, but the best, most reliable way to get a Ring of Royal Grandeur, Act 1 bounty bags. I've heard way too many stories of people spending days, weeks, thousands of blood shards, death's breaths, just trying to get the Ring of Royal Grandeur, and I'm like, oh no, in my guides I forget to remind new players that the Ring of Royal Grandeur could only be acquired from bounty bags, because it's just become something second nature to Diablo players, and it's not an item that's used as much anymore in builds since it first emerged. On to other Diablo news, I've started up a Diablo lore series, so if you want to learn more about the interesting peoples and places of Diablo in a video that doesn't take itself too seriously, do check that out. On to this week's community complaint corner, botting. Now, this is a serious issue that has always been present in the community, and it sort of comes and goes in waves, like the tide. I mean, botting has always existed, but it's become more prevalent sometimes, it's become a greater nuisance sometimes. If you look at the leaderboards, a lot of the top players, you inspect their profiles, and the time invested in the season, you'd run the math, they must be playing 20 hours a day, which is physically impossible, at least over the course of a full month. So basically, people aren't even hiding the fact that they're botting, and this is very discouraging for people trying to push the leaderboards. It's also not uncommon to join a public bounty game and see someone botting. You can sometimes tell because the bots bug out and just kind of go back and forth, back and forth. Now, botting doesn't affect me on a personal level. I don't push leaderboards, and I don't play in public games, so botting really isn't something on my radar, but I do understand how it could affect other people and how it affects the community at large. In any competitive endeavor like the leaderboards, maintaining the spirit of fair play is important. And when it seems like botters go unpunished, that sends a very disheartening message to players. Now, that said, I do have some potentially promising news in that regard. I have unconfirmed reports from a source close to me that say that recently, one of the popular botting applications had its tripwire tripped. Without getting too deep into the details here, basically, some of these cheating programs have an inbuilt way of noticing when they're being detected, and they'll just automatically shut down. And there apparently was a recent scare in the botting community that's got a lot of botters sweating and generally concerned that they might be banned in the coming weeks. Now, whether this was actually the case or it was just a false alarm, we'll find out soon enough. But now, one proposed solution to the botting problem is having a seasonal Paragon cap. The reason being that botting either directly or indirectly helps you level up your Paragon faster, and more Paragon means more power. If Paragon capped at, say, 2000, then there would be less incentive to keep botting after that. Yes, you can still bot for other reasons, but it would be less helpful. I personally don't think that it would solve the botting issue, but it would certainly help. I've never been a fan of the current implementation of the Paragon system. I like the idea of a system that keeps leveling and leveling and leveling, but I do feel there should be a cap on the power, or at the very least, highly diminishing returns. Diablo 3 is an action RPG. The core of an action RPG is loot. When the game becomes more about grinding for Paragon levels rather than grinding for loot, I think there's a problem. Now, the idea behind implementing the Paragon system was a good one. The dev team, when considering session-based gameplay, wanted to ensure that anytime you played Diablo, even if you did not find an item upgrade, you could at least still get a Paragon level. So you got something out of that play session. I can get behind that sentiment. That was also during a time when legendary items were much more rare, but it does seem ultimately unimaginative of a reward structure. It's exciting to find loot, it's not exciting to get another Paragon level. I'm fine with having infinite Paragon levels, but maybe just make it a prestige thing, a cosmetic thing, not something that could vastly increase your power. But what do you folks think? Alright, now let's finish off with our Overwatch news. Winter Wonderland is returning. May's Snowball Offensive is coming back, with a new map as well. Black Forest is now a map in which you can throw snowballs at each other, and there's also an entirely new game mode, May's Yeti Hunt. This is an asymmetric 1v5 PvP game. 5 Mays versus 1 Uber Winston, and it basically plays out like Pac-Man. Winston has to go around the map, collecting things until he becomes superpowered, and then has the power to take on the Mays. The Mays want to catch Winston before he becomes superpowered, and once he's superpowered, they want to run away from him. And this game mode will take place in Nepal Village. We have confirmation that Roadhog and Junkrat will be receiving legendary skins, and will also apparently get a Hanzo skin that we've seen previously in a comic. And all indications are that it is likely this skin here. And Tumblr user Sketch Cetera has photoshopped up what that concept might look like in-game. In other Overwatch news, Overwatch won Best Ongoing Game at the Game Awards 2017. Nate Nanzer, the Overwatch League commissioner, announced via Twitter that once the Overwatch League skins, that's basically the team skins, are live, anyone who logs in during that first month will be able to get one skin for free. And if you want some examples of what those skins look like, I'll have a link in the description below. And speaking of skins, let's just finish off today's video with some cool fan skins that we've seen recently. Now here's one that was actually made last year, but that we're all hoping is coming this Christmas season. Santa Reinhardt. This is by DeviantArt user YY6242. Then we have this Prince Charming Lucio fan skin from Chatty Window. We've got this very elaborate concept art for Snow Angel Mercy by Peter Burrows. We've got this simple police officer Orisa recolor by Chatty Window. We've got this awesome Symmetra concept by Boop Boop Boo. Excellent reference to Chell from Portal. And then another skin by Chatty Window, collaboration with Corgi, is this Sombra skin, which is a sleuth / Carmen Sandiego / Michael Jackson. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. Remember to leave a comment on any and every story that we've covered. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, we've got a bunch of perks like behind the scenes content, merchandise discounts, monthly hangouts. You can see the full details on the Patreon site. If you enjoyed this video, please consider sharing it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rikers Raiders for more gaming content.